comes. The greatest celebration this land has ever known.
Celebrate! Celebrate!
Mother Country's 200 years old. Come celebrate with United Airlines. United's got vacations to more of your land than any other airline.
Mother Country's got her arms open wide. Celebrate! Celebrate a proud land born 200 years ago. Come along, sing along, feel that sweet Mother Country, she's your land and mine.
Come celebrate your land in the spirit of friendship.
The brave guys of your land, United Airlines.
Call United about money-saving vacation fares.
I asked Ralph Garr of the Atlanta Braves what his problem has been in getting such a slow start with his bat.
Well, I tell you, it's been, I don't know really, I can't really explain it. It's just something that's in me that I hadn't been really as aggressive as I usually be. You know, I've been a little slow. Like I talked to Garvey last night, and he told me I didn't seem to act like I really was too, you know, aggressive at the place that I usually be, you know, and I wasn't aware of it. It's just something that happened. Like last year, I got off to a little slower start, but I sort of caught on a little faster. Now I've been getting a hit here and there, but helping my club pretty good. But I feel that now I'm just going to have to really get down and get a little angry. I usually get angry and fuss at myself and give myself a hard time, but I tried to be a little more quiet and a little more patient this year, and that's not me. So I'm going to have to go back to getting mad and really, you know, swinging real hard and doing my regular game, because I just can't be quiet and don't say anything when I'm not doing as well as I would like to do.
Are you seeing the ball as well?
Seeing the ball well. I feel real good. I feel as good as I've ever felt since I've been playing. Everything, my manager is great. My ball club is great. As far as the Braves front office, everything is great for me. I have no problem. My only problem is base hits, and I feel that I'm the man to correct that.
Ralph Garr of the Atlanta Braves. And this is Gil Stratton for KNX News Radio.
Gil Stratton with KNX Sports was sponsored by United Airlines. The time is 7:27, and in other sports, a field of 15 horses, all 3-year-olds, was entered today for the 101st running of the Kentucky Derby Saturday. The early favorite for the mile and a quarter classic is Foolish Pleasure, winner of 10 of 11 races over a span of 2 seasons. Foolish Pleasure drew the number 3 post position. Bad weather at Churchill Downs in Louisville all week has made track conditions uncertain. Tom Borwinkle's basket, with 2 seconds left, led the Chicago Bulls to a 92-89 win over Golden State. That victory evens that NBA playoff series at 1 game apiece. In the NBA Eastern playoffs, Washington took a 2-0 lead with a 117-92 win over Boston. The ABA Western Division Final will go down to a 7th and deciding game as Denver beat Indiana 104-99. The Dodgers ran their winning streak to 7 games with a 5-2 victory over Atlanta. The Angels now hold a share of first place after edging Kansas City 7-6. And the Padres snapped their own 5-game losing streak, beating Houston 4-2. Veteran quarterback Sonny Jurgensen of the Washington Redskins is expected to announce his retirement today. He and more than 60 other National Football League players now are free agents. Now here's George Martin in KNX computerized traffic control.
On the San Diego Freeway southbound at Victory, on the center divider, a stalled vehicle. Long Beach Freeway northbound south of Rosecrans, another disabled vehicle. They're clearing up. As a matter of fact, they have cleared the accident on the Harbor Freeway at 51st Street, affecting mainly northbound traffic. And on the San Diego Freeway northbound at Moraga, the brush fire on the center divider is out, and traffic moving past the scene at a somewhat faster pace. At 7:29, George Martin, KNX Traffic Control.
Supporters of an oil depletion allowance repeal bill say if they have the votes today, they'll bring the measure before the state Senate. Last week, the effort to kill the $43 million tax break for major oil companies fell 2 votes short of passage. Author of the legislation is Assemblyman Bill Lockyer of Alameda County. He says public apathy has made it more difficult to get the bill out of the state Senate.
Unfortunately, there's been very little public outcry. People believe, 4 out of 5, in fact, believe that the tax laws are written to benefit the rich and the big companies, and when an opportunity comes along to try to correct that, unfortunately, they're silent. I'm still hopeful that people will let their state senators know that they'd like to see that change take place.
Assemblyman Lockyer, tomorrow afternoon, will you be the winner of $1,070 in cash? Right now is a good time to become eligible for the third drawing, May 16th. Print your name and address on standard-sized postcards and mail them to KNX 1070 Contest. Post Office Box 1070, Hollywood. The zip is 90028. And remember, tomorrow afternoon, right here on KNX News Radio, we'll announce the second winner of $1,070. I'm Russ Powell in KNX News Central. The time is 7:30.
Morning, noon, and night. Get it first, get it right. Stay in tune with the 70s. KNX News Radio 1070, Los Angeles.
San Francisco, 4,000 doctors lock their offices and say they will discontinue their practice unless and until insurance rates for malpractice coverage come down. Sacramento, State Senate unanimously approves a stopgap measure designed to ease the malpractice insurance crisis in a late-night session, but sponsor admits it won't help much. Capitol Hill, Democratic Congressman Thomas Reese of Beverly Hills says his office has been swamped with mail and phone calls objecting to resettlement of thousands of South Vietnamese in the United States. Washington, there may be a little something extra in your pay envelope tomorrow as lower withholding rates go into effect under the anti-recession tax cut measure. New York, independent research organization says the dollar has lost 21 cents in buying power over the last 4 years because of inflationary erosion. Details of these and other stories coming up on KNX News Radio, your 50,000-watt news voice for Southern California, and sponsored this morning by Chevrolet.
They go together in the good old USA. Baseball and hot dogs, apple pie and Chevrolet.
Southern California coastal sections will have some cloudiness today and tomorrow. Otherwise, weather in the Southland should be generally fair. Hazy sunshine again on tap for metropolitan Los Angeles. In San Diego, night and morning low clouds and fog, hazy afternoon sunshine both today and tomorrow, and much the same to the north in Santa Barbara and Ventura counties in the coastal areas. Night and morning low clouds, hazy sunshine in the afternoon both today and tomorrow.
America, Chevrolet's got a number for you. Vega Wagon 3066.
Vega Wagon 3066.
That's right. Vega's the lowest priced American-built wagon. $3,066 manufacturer's suggested retail price, including the available 142-barrel engine and dealer new vehicle preparation charge. Destination charges, other available equipment, state and local taxes are additional. Here's more. 21 and 29.
21 and 29.
Vega wagon with the available 142-barrel engine got 21 miles per gallon in the city test, 29 in the highway test. It's published in the EPA Buyer's Guide. No American-built wagon reported got better mileage.
We've got your number, Chevrolet.
Vegas, the lowest priced American-built wagon.
Vega Wagon 3066.
How much?
Vega Wagon 3066.
Again.
The state legislature has stepped into the Northern California doctors' strike, where physicians are protesting a familiar issue. KNX News Radio correspondent Frank Knight has more on that story in San Francisco.
Some 4,000 doctors in Northern California are staying home, vowing not to return until high medical malpractice insurance rates are slashed. A last-minute stopgap measure aimed at easing the crisis was passed unanimously by the state Senate in a late-night session. But even the bill's floor sponsor, California State Senator George Moscone, admits the legislation cannot solve the crisis.
It doesn't go very far in terms of making premiums more reasonable, and that, of course, is based upon efforts of the legislature in the next several weeks to be able to pass some kind of reform measures that respect the rights of injured parties and at the same time make medical malpractice judgments equal and not in excess of what the damage has been.
Facing layoffs now are thousands of hospital staff members. Almost all elective surgery has been canceled in Northern California. Frank Knight for CBS News, San Francisco.
KNX News Radio time is 7:34. A Pentagon spokesman says U.S. Navy ships off South Vietnam have picked up an additional 18,000 refugees who managed to escape by boat. He added that several ships will linger in the vicinity another day or two in case others make it into international waters. Hanoi has been protesting the rescue of the waterborne refugees and been demanding that U.S. ships leave the vicinity. The Viet Cong radio says all South Vietnam is now under control of the Provisional Revolutionary Government with the surrender of the last 4 provinces in the Mekong Delta. That report also says that all banks, businesses, and farms in South Vietnam will be confiscated by the new regime. In Washington, one California congressman says many Americans resent the influx of Southeast Asian refugees. Democratic Representative Thomas Reese of Beverly Hills says his office is flooded with calls.
I just find that people were rather panicked. They thought they'd be inundating the community, and we have a high unemployment rate, and they would take away jobs, and then there was the problem of disease, and there was a certain amount of feeling we don't want any immigrants here. Why are they coming to the United States?
Democratic Representative Thomas Reese of Beverly Hills. The Defense Department says the Viet Cong in North Vietnam have fallen heir to U.S. military equipment valued at about $5 billion. The estimate makes North Vietnam one of the biggest benefactors of American aid in history, exceeded only by France and South Korea. The Conference Board, an independent economic research organization in New York, says the dollar has lost more than half its value in the last 25 years, and in the last 4 years alone, inflation has eroded 21 cents worth of the buying power. The conference's board analysis shows that a family of 4 in 1975 must earn $12,000 to maintain the purchasing power from 1970 income of $8,700. KNX News Radio time is 7:36. One part of President Ford's promised tax relief becomes a reality today. Federal income tax withholding schedules are being revised downward. That will mean slightly more take-home pay for wage earners. How much depends on the individual circumstances of each taxpayer. Speaking in Los Angeles, IRS spokesman Bell Baker says the reduced tax should be reflected in paychecks very soon.
There should be no problem. The Internal Revenue Service has mailed the new guide to withholding tables. It's called Circular E, Employees Tax Guide. It has been in all employers' hands for some weeks now, and they should have had time to redo their payroll process to reflect the new withholding.
IRS spokesman Val Baker talking about a nearly $8 billion reduction in the amount of federal income taxes withheld by employers. Now the latest on traffic in the Southland from George Martin and KNX Computerized Traffic Control.
A traffic problem on the Hollywood Freeway southbound a half mile south of Alvarado. Harbor Freeway northbound south of Sepulveda, a disabled vehicle. Another on the San Diego Freeway northbound north of Olympic, a couple of disabled vehicles. And on the 605 Freeway southbound at Ramona, there's a sawhorse on the freeway. San Diego Freeway southbound has slowing from the Santa Monica Freeway to the Marina Freeway. San Diego Freeway northbound has slowing from the Harbor Freeway to Crenshaw. Santa Monica eastbound has slow going from La Cienega to Normandy. Harbor northbound has slowing from north of El Segundo to Manchester, and congestion from Manchester to 51st Street, where there was an earlier accident. Compute times from Xerox Corporation and the Department of Transportation. Santa Monica Freeway eastbound, the San Diego Freeway to the Harbor Freeway, 14 minutes, average speed 42 miles per hour. North on the Harbor, Imperial to the Santa Monica Freeway, 16 minutes, you'll average 28. At 7:38, George Martin, KNX Traffic Control.
Hey, America, in case you didn't know it, we're number one when it comes to value.
Prove it, Chevrolet.
Okay, our Bel Air two-seat wagon is priced $92 less than any competitive American full-size wagon.
That makes sense.
Our new Monza S hatchback coupe is priced $170 less than the most similar four-cylinder hatchback from Chevy's nearest sales competitor.
Good.
And our Chevelle Malibu 6 sedan is priced $555 less than the base mid-size model from Chevy's nearest sales competitor.
Now that really makes sense.
Well, it should. Prices are based on a comparison of manufacturers' suggested retail prices, America. We'll tell you more about low prices in another commercial.
We'll be listening.
Better yet, why don't you go see your Chevy dealer? He'll tell you all about competitive prices and good old Chevy value.
Now that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Chevrolet, now that makes sense.
That's because we're number one.
Chevrolet, you've done it again.
You betcha.
That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Officials at Camp Pendleton in Southern California report that so far they're keeping up with the flow of Vietnamese refugees arriving in increasing numbers. KNX News Radio reporter Miriam Pierre is with me in News Central with the latest. Miriam?
Well, Russ, as of this morning, some 5,000 refugees have arrived at Camp Pendleton, and spokesmen say they've worked around the clock to develop their capacity to handle them from 0 to 10,000 in 3.5 days. Last night, the first after-dark arrivals were processed, and another area of the base, Camp San Onofre, was opened with its barracks and mess hall for the comfort of the refugees. Base spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Art Brill tells KNX News Radio a civil coordinator worked all through yesterday on flow charts, and this morning a new centralized processing system will be put into effect to streamline that screening operation. Brill says that should make it easier on the refugees who so far have handled well whatever has been asked of them.
Well, it's getting better, put it this way. I wouldn't say it's settled because we're having an awful lot of people come in now, and we have not started this centralized processing. But as the federal agencies come in, and as volunteer agencies come in, and of course get settled and get their telephones and get down behind the desk, it is really better for the refugees. And the facilities here, of course, we have the capacity, or we'll have the capacity for about 10,000 people as of early evening today. And this is, again, from a zero capacity Monday to about 10,000, and this is in about 3 days' time, 3.5 days' time.
Camp Pendleton spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Art Brill, who says the refugees have been cooperative. About 35% of the arrivals so far have turned out to speak English, but he says less of them, of the later arrivals, do speak English. He says some 1,300 refugees already have been processed and departed from the base. Miriam Bier, KNX News Radio.
Thank you, Miriam, and I'm Russ Powell in KNX News Central. The time is 7:41.
They go together in the good old USA. Baseball and hot dogs, apple pie and Chevrolet.
The National Cancer Institute has disputed charges by the California-based National Health Federation that cities which fluoridate their water have higher cancer death rates than cities which leave it alone. The Institute says the National Health Federation statements earlier this year to the California Health Department contain what it calls factual errors and oversimplified data, while ignoring other factors which cause cancer. California health authorities are considering making fluoridation mandatory, and Los Angeles voters will either approve or reject fluoridation of city water in a referendum on the 27th of this month.
Hi, this is Arthur Godfrey. I'd like to point out that an egg is an egg, and that some happy hen cackled over it when she laid it, and regardless of what you do to it, whether you beat them up in a custard or a cake, it's still an egg, and it is still the highest single source of cholesterol in the daily diet. That's why I want you to try Second Nature, the cholesterol-free egg substitute. No cholesterol and only half of the calories. Listen, you can substitute Second Nature for every whole beaten egg your recipe calls for. And that's easy to do because Second Nature comes ready to use, no defrosting. And remember, it's 80% fresh egg. The only substitution is in the yolk, folk, where the cholesterol is. And for eating and for cooking, you get the taste and the protein quality of eggs without any cholesterol and with only half of the calories. Second Nature, in the egg or dairy case at your store. Get some.
KNX News Radio time is 7:42. What do you consider most important for your savings? Safety, high interest, insurance, service? Here's Harry Von Zell to remind you where you can get all four.
Well, obviously, most of you know the answer. Home Savings and Loan Association. Only Home backs your savings with assets over $5.5 billion, plus insurance of accounts to $40,000 or more. Most banks pay 4.5% on passbook accounts. Home pays 5.25%. No bank pays 7.75% on 6 to 10 year term accounts. Home does, with just a $1,000 balance. Substantial early withdrawal penalties do apply, of course. But leaving your interest in your account, you earn over 8% in a year, and your account doubles in less than 9 years. You get all of this, plus all those free services at Home.
For your savings, there is no place like Home. Home Savings, #1 in the nation in both savings and loans. It's Election Day in Northern Ireland, and the balloting is being carried out amid strict security precautions. Reporter Peter Martin has that story in Belfast.
Voters are going to the polls today to elect a 78-member convention. The convention is designed to form a new government for Northern Ireland. More than 1 million people are eligible to vote, and once again, voting is expected to be carried out on religious lines. Protestant candidates predict a comfortable majority of the seats in the convention. Catholic candidates are hoping to win a substantial number of seats. Police and troops are providing tight security at polling stations. Voters are being asked not to carry packages, bags, or transistor radios. Any package is a suspect bomb in this country now, and extra caution is always taken during elections. There was an explosion at a Protestant meeting house during the night. No one was injured. And a hand grenade was thrown at a Catholic candidate's home but failed to explode. Peter Martin for CBS News, Belfast.
Southern California coastal sections will have cloudiness today and tomorrow. Otherwise, they say the weather in the Southland should be generally fair. There'll be some smog in some spots. Hazy sunshine again on tap for metropolitan Los Angeles. The high temperature at Civic Center both today and tomorrow will be in the upper 60s. The mountains and deserts will have some afternoon cloudiness. Otherwise, it should be sunny, although windy at times. The time is 7:45, and the KNX Business Report with Jerry Laird is sponsored by Ducommon Incorporated. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, Russ. Stocks opened strong this morning. Advances better than 3-to-1 ahead of declines, although prices have begun to soften in the last few minutes. The industrials average now is up 3.44 at 824.70 up, 824.78. The average was up about 5 points about 10 minutes ago. Transportation's up 0.65, utilities plus 0.44. Volume heavier than recent days at 4 million shares. Oils are mixed. Union Oil up 1 1/8, Standard of Indiana plus 1 5/8, but Arco is down 0.5. Schlumberger is up 1 1/2, Halliburton plus 0.5. IBM is down 7/8 after a 7-point gain yesterday. DuPont gives up 1 of yesterday's 6-point gain. Homestake is up 1/8. Kloof is down 3/8. Free enterprise comes to Wall Street today. For the first time in 183 years, beginning today, brokers' commission rates are competitive and negotiable. Most observers expect commissions to be somewhat higher for small investors, however, at least at the outset. More after this.
And now a word from Ducommon, the uncommon company since 1849. In 1845, California had only 700 American residents, but the gold rush changed all that. The frontier town of Los Angeles grew, and so did the business Charles Lewis Ducommon founded there in 1849. Agriculture boomed, too. The first carload of oranges was shipped east in 1877. And just 50 years later, the growing Ducommon Company took delivery of its first carload of carbon steel. And it soon became a leader in the $8 billion metal service industry. In '61, it acquired Kiroth Electronics, one of the 3 largest electronics component distributors in a $5.5 billion industry. In the technological fields, the Supertemp and Digital Machines companies were added. That's the Ducommon Company, growing in an uncommon way.
Corporate profits plunged 21% in 1975's first quarter after a long string of year-to-year gains. Among the biggest losers, airlines, chain stores, oil companies, and the automakers. The survey was conducted by the Wall Street Journal. Fed Chairman Arthur Burns told the Senate Banking Committee today the high rate of inflation is the fundamental factor forcing up long-term interest rates. Burns said new federal borrowings by the end of the year probably will total over $60 billion. He said next year's budget deficit may reach $100 billion. Burns said the Fed will increase the money supply between 5 and 7.5% in the year ending next March. London gold down $1 on the day at the afternoon fixing at 166. Trading is very quiet, a holiday in most of Europe. London silver down 12 cents at $4.30. The Federal Home Loan Bank Board has raised the reserve liquidity requirement for federal S&Ls from 5.5% to 6% effective June 1st. And oil industry executives say Venezuela is considering cutting the price of low-sulfur oil as much as the $3 premium it commands over the basic price of crude. The industrials average now up 3.13. Jerry Laird, KNX News Radio.
Thank you, Jerry. The KNX Business News was sponsored by Ducommon Incorporated. That report brings our time to 7:48.
You asked for an economical main dish, Mrs. America, and what did you get? Stuff that comes in cans. You asked for a hot meal that required no cooking, and what did you get?
Frozen TV dinners. Well, take heart, Mrs. America. Now you can get economy and convenience plus delicious flavor in a big box from Colonel Sanders that holds 10 plump pieces of juicy golden brown Kentucky Fried Chicken, a pint of tangy coleslaw, a pint of mashed potatoes with gravy, and 5 fresh rolls. And it feeds 4 or more for only $4.94.
Yes, Mrs. America, economy, convenience, and fantastic finger-licking good flavor are all yours at last. So remember the name. Colonel Sanders, 10 plump pieces of juicy golden brown Kentucky Fried Chicken, a pint of tangy coleslaw, a pint of mashed potatoes with gravy, and 5 fresh rolls that feeds 4 or more for only $4.94. Value pack.
Just ask for the, special.
For one of the best food values in town, get the Colonel's $4.94 value pack right now at participating locations.
Update from across the nation and around the world on KNX News Radio 1070.
North Vietnam today demanded the U.S. immediately halt what the communists call the forcible evacuation of refugees. The Hanoi broadcast charged the U.S. with violation of the Paris Peace Accord. A massive airlift of South Vietnamese from Guam to the United States will get underway today. The initial destination of the refugees is Camp Pendleton, those housed in a tent city on Guam. include lawyers, professors, and doctors, the elite of South Vietnam's upper class. A newspaper in Amman says Israel has closed all but 2 main roads leading to the east bank of the Jordan River and is preparing for an attack against Jordan, Syria, and Egypt. KNX News Radio time is 7:50. Here is George Martin in computerized traffic control.
On the 605 freeway northbound north of Firestone in the number 2 lane, there's a stalled truck. Santa Ana Freeway southbound at the Sand Canyon off-ramp, traffic slowing, and the Highway Patrol checking out the reason. Pomona Freeway westbound west of Hacienda, a stalled vehicle on the center divider. On the Foothill Freeway eastbound in the vicinity of Buena Vista on the center divider, a couple of pedestrians at 7:50. George Martin, KNX Traffic Control.
Thank you, George. KNX News Radio Sports with Tom Kelly is sponsored by San Diego Federal Savings in Century City, Hollywood, and Universal City. Here's Tom.
Thank you. Good morning. The Dodgers rolled past the Atlanta Braves again last night, this time 5-2. A new set of heroes, Doug Rau with his 3rd win of the year, and Lee Lacy with a couple of RBIs and 3 hits, all of which made it a sweep over the visitors, a 7-game winning streak now for the Dodgers, and a day off to rest up a bit while waiting for San Diego to come to town Friday. The Angels have a bit of a streak going now themselves. They won their 3rd straight and 2nd in a row over Kansas City, this time 7-6, a marathon affair in Kansas City. And how about the Boston Celtics? Well, the defending NBA champions were soundly beaten by Washington again last night as the Big E, Elvin Hayes, and Phil Chenier accounted for 54 points. Washington now with a 2-0 lead in that series, while Golden State lost by 1 to Chicago last night. Their series all even at a win each. Off the floor, the NBA introduced Larry O'Brien as their new commissioner yesterday, and for some, it wasn't much of a meeting. Lots of platitudes from O'Brien, they say, who said to them he couldn't really tell why he was hired over so many other people. As one reporter put it, O'Brien really underwhelmed the press. In the ABA last night, Denver beat Indiana to even their series at 3 wins each and set the stage for one more and a deciding game. Today is May Day, 1st of the month, and while it's bill-paying day for you and me, it is the time of the year when football players who have played out their options are supposedly free agents. There's quite a crop this year, all the way from quarterback Broadway Joe Namath of the Jets to L.C. Greenwood, the star defensive lineman of the Steelers. Some could make big headlines today, maybe Namath, if he decides to join up with the WFL. More sports in a moment.
What did 1885 mean to California? Well, this is Rex May, and from what I've heard, it was a pretty important period. A railroad boom, thousands of new residents each month, businesses challenged to meet the pace. That was 90 years ago when San Diego Federal was founded. And every year since then, we've been meeting those same challenges, providing 90 years of uninterrupted service to Californians. 90 years in which to build a statewide network of 34 offices and a reputation for safety, strength, and security. It's an enviable record and a heritage of which we're very proud. Today, we're among the 5 largest federally chartered savings and loan associations in the state of California, with resources of $900 million. 90 years strong, $900 million strong. San Diego Federal Savings and Loan Association.
One man who won't be playing out an option and moving any place is Sonny Jurgensen. He called it a career today. The 41-year-old quarterback, rather than try for a new career with another club in the National Football League or a move to the World Football League, has hung him up. Jurgensen played for 19 years and in his final season had the best completion record for any thrower in the league. 107 completions of 167 attempts and 11 touchdowns. He had 255 throughout the 19 years. His departure leaves the Skins with 3 quarterbacks. Have a nice day. Tom Kelly, KNX News Radio.
Tom Kelly with KNX Sports has been sponsored by San Diego Federal Savings and Loan. The time now is 7:54, and KNX News Radio weather with Bill Keene is sponsored by Budget Rent-A-Car in the San Francisco Bay Area. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Russ. Here it is, the first day of May, and the weather outside looks exactly like May, for a fact. And probably will stay that way throughout the morning with a lot of low clouds and fog along the coastline, with more returning tonight and tomorrow morning. One thing that looks a little bit like August, though. We're starting to get a moist flow of air from the Gulf of Mexico into the interior of Southern California. That's nothing world-shaking, and it's not going to cause any problem, except it usually happens later in the year. And what this moist flow of air into the interior will do later today is create the buildup of some pretty big cumulus clouds out over the deserts and mountains, and even set up the possibility of an isolated thunder shower or two in the next 24 hours. No big deal, but it's there, and I thought I'd tell you about it. Meantime, back here at the ranch in the Los Angeles Basin, we can say that the weather will continue to be night and morning low clouds, hazy sun in the afternoon with quite a bit of smog. High temperature today will be about 70 to 72 degrees at Civic Center again. The overnight low about 52, and the low 70s will be the good word for tomorrow again as we approach the weekend with no major storm problems in sight at all. And as far as the inland valleys are concerned, compared to Civic Center, they'll be downright hot. They'll get up to about 75 or 78. And right at the beaches, right at water's edge, rather cool. High temperatures 66 to 68 today when the clouds finally break away about noon and give you a little sun this afternoon. The mountains, as I said, could have an isolated thunder shower or two. Otherwise, they'll be partly cloudy and quite pleasant. High temperatures in the mountain resort levels about 60, overnight lows in the mid-30s. The upper deserts also could have an isolated thunder shower or two. They'll be partly cloudy today. Little windy in the afternoon with high temperatures around 70 to 75, overnight lows near 45. And down around Palm Springs, it's really beginning to look like summer. High temperatures near 85 under just partly cloudy skies, overnight lows near 60. In a moment, some weather around the country.
Budget Rent-A-Car wants to set the record straight about renting a car. At Budget, you pay for the gas you use. Now, Hertz will tell you that they pay for the gasoline. But who do you think really pays for the gas? You do, with high mileage charges. Let Budget Rent-A-Car save you some real dollars on your next trip to the Bay Area. Here's a typical example. Rent a Chevrolet Vega or similar car from Budget for one day, drive 70 miles, and Budget saves you $5.14 as compared to a similar car from Hertz. Why not prove it to yourself? Call Hertz and Avis first, then call Budget. You'll see the difference is the money you save. And don't forget, Budget has counters next to Hertz and Avis at San Francisco, San Jose, and Oakland airports. For reservations, call Budget, rent a car toll-free at 800-228-9650. That's 800-228-9650. Bill?
New York today will be cloudy and 59, Chicago cloudy and 62, Denver partly cloudy and 58, and San Francisco clear and 60. Bill Keene for KNX News Radio from Midtown Tarzana.
Thank you, Bill. The weather report was sponsored by Budget Rent-A-Car in the San Francisco Bay Area. The time is 7:57, time for Save On's three great radio bargains, only at Save On drugstores and only today, Saturday. Only 99 cents for the big 10-ounce plastic bottle of Johnson's baby oil. That's a third off. And Earthborn shampoo, all four fragrances. The 8-ounce bottle is 1/3 off at only 87 cents. Here's a super bargain. Decorator metal foot lockers in mod colors and patterns, including stars and stripes and old ad montages. Only $9.95. You pack away a big $3 saving today. Shop these great bargains through Saturday and many more at your nearby Save On. Open tonight till 9:30.
Save on, save on. Join the Save On hit parade and fun to serve yourself and save and save on drugstore, save on drugstore. Save on!
Remember today's bargains. Johnson's baby oil, 10-ounce bottle, only 99 cents. Earthborn shampoo, 8-ounce bottle, only 87 cents. Decorator metal foot lockers are only $9.95. Now through Saturday at your nearby Save On, a great place to shop. An Altadena man identified as 28-year-old Mike Sane has been booked on suspicion of attempted murder and kidnapping. He is the suspect in the case of a 12-year-old San Marino girl who was beaten and stabbed after being forced into a car while she was waiting for a campfire girl meeting to begin in an Altadena church. Later, the girl was pushed out of the car and is now recovering from wounds and shock. Sane was arrested after sheriff's deputies stopped his car and found what appeared to be bloodstains on the seat. The state Senate has approved and sent to the Assembly a bill allowing California doctors to provide teenagers with contraceptives and birth control information without parental consent. Democratic Senator Anthony Bielenson of Los Angeles introduced that measure. He said it is ludicrous that a young girl can get an abortion without parental consent, but can't get birth control devices or information without permission from her parents. Currently in Hollywood, we have a temperature reading of 55 degrees. Your dial is set at 1070. In the coming hour, you will hear news as it is happening on KNX News Radio. From Mike Landa, he'll be back with a report on teachers at some parochial schools in Los Angeles who want union representation. Bruce Dunning in Guam, he'll have more on the flood of Vietnamese who escaped from Saigon. Comedian Bob Hope will have some thoughts on the fall of South Vietnam. You'll hear the head of the California Nurses Association talking about the doctor strike today in Northern California. Plus, Alan Slate with sports. Jerry Dunphy with his personal file. We will have more traffic reports from George Martin in KNX Computerized Traffic Control. Jerry Laird will be along with financial news, and we'll have the feature News Break. I'm Russ Powell for KNX Los Angeles. And now CBS News covers the world at 8 o'clock.
CBS News. President Ford has asked Congress for refugee aid. I'm Reed Collins reporting on the CBS Radio Network. President Ford this morning has requested $327 million, which he says is desperately needed for Indochina's refugees. Some House leaders had agreed to vote on final approval today, but delays have cropped up almost immediately. Opponents began stalling because the measure still contains that authorization for military evacuation of Saigon. In a message to the House, Mr. Ford says that has already been overtaken by events. Leery of passage, Democrat Philip Burton demanded a call of the House roll. Urging passage, the Democrat Thomas Morgan said, "We've got to pick all these people up. What are we going to do? Throw them back into the water?" Hanoi has objected to what it calls the forcible evacuation of South Vietnamese by the United States and demands American ships leave those offshore areas. But they are still there, and some Vietnamese managed to get out and aboard ship well after the Saigon ceasefire. Ambassador Graham Martin, among the last Americans out of Saigon and now aboard the helicopter carrier Blue Ridge, says this trip wasn't necessary. Peter Collins reports from the ship Blue Ridge.
The United States ambassador to the former Saigon government says the last-minute American evacuation from Vietnam would not have been necessary if the U.S. had kept its commitment to the Thieu regime as it had in the first year after the ceasefire. Ambassador Martin and other officials have been saying that the debacle in Vietnam became inevitable after the United States reduced its military aid to President Thieu's government, while Russia and China continued theirs to Hanoi. But Martin and his staff have been coming under private but bitter criticism from Navy officers on this ship for postponing the final evacuation until it had to be made literally under the gun. This is Peter Collins, CBS News, aboard the U.S. Navy ship Blue Ridge in the South China Sea.
More in a minute.
On your way to work? Good. Let me talk to you for a minute about a very valuable member of your firm, an employee who's got connections all over the country. Your telephone. It can put you in business anywhere for a lot less than you'd expect. In fact, with new dial direct rates in effect, depending upon where you call, it could be cheaper than the total cost of preparing and sending a letter, which can cost your company more than $5. You can open up new opportunities personally in a way a business letter never could. And you can get a reply instantly and act on it now, rather than waiting a couple of days. It's like having an office in any city in the country, as often as you like, for as long as you like. No matter what size firm you're with, if you're opening up new markets, long distance is the best way to go. Because if you conduct more business on the phone, you may find yourself with more business to conduct. Now more than ever, long distance is your best business connection. Pacific Telephone.
American news wires into Saigon are out, but a Japanese agency says there was a May Day parade today and some 3,000 Saigonese came out to join the parade. Several 100,000 paraded through Red Square in Moscow today, their banners carrying the theme, "Glory to Work, Glory to the Communist Party." At a Senate hearing in Washington today, Federal Reserve Board Chairman Arthur Burns wished there was more work, warned of the continued menace of inflation, but pledged the board will do its best.
The Federal Reserve is firmly committed to do what it can to restore general price stability in this country. The Federal Reserve is also firmly committed to restore full employment in this country. During the next year, this nation can, and I believe it will, make progress towards the achievement of both of these objectives.
Reserve Board Chairman Burns. Egypt's President Sadat says he'll have some new diplomatic drive to announce tomorrow. One aimed, he says, at ending the no war, no peace relationship between Israel and Egypt. On Wall Street right now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average in the first hour is ahead 2.19. Volume on the big board has been 5,750,000 shares to now. More news in a moment.
There's a new kind of Cadillac at your Cadillac dealers now. A car with Cadillac comfort and luxury, yet international in size. A car complete, one of the world's best equipped, with an electronic fuel-injected 5.7-liter engine standard. That's Seville, timeless in styling, a new expression of Cadillac excellence. Seville by Cadillac. Seville is about 25 inches shorter than full-sized U.S. luxury cars, yet about the same overall height. Seville, built in America to be at home anywhere in the world. Seville by Cadillac. At your Cadillac dealers now.
Vietcong officials in Paris are trying to straighten out their business about the name of Saigon. It is still officially Saigon, they say, but it will continue to carry the popular name Ho Chi Minh City, as revolutionary folklore has called it for decades now, much as New York is sometimes called Gotham. Some Westerners have been so eager to please the new Saigon city management that they actually had adopted the name Ho Chi Minh City in references to it yesterday and today. This is Reed Collins, CBS News.
Morning, noon, and night. Get it first, get it right. Stay in tune with the 70s. KNX News Radio, 1070 Los Angeles.
And once again, a very pleasant good morning, everyone. The time is 8:06, and I'm Russ Powell for KNX News Radio, your 50,000-watt news voice for Southern California. Now, the major stories in Los Angeles and the West for Thursday, May the 1st. Northern California doctors go on a work strike in rebellion against the increased costs of medical malpractice coverage. A Compton boy is booked on arson charges after a fire in an apartment building. Deputies claim he confessed to starting 4 similar fires in the area. Parochial school teachers are fighting for union representation in the Los Angeles area. University of California law schools are cooperating with the state bar. This in an effort to help teachers get a better idea of the law and civil liberties. Southern California coastal sections will have some cloudiness today and tomorrow. Otherwise, the weather in the Southland should be generally fair. Try to imagine $1 million worth of furs all in one place. That's what you'll find this Sunday from 11 to 5 at the beautiful Broadway and Broadway Plaza, 7th at Flower, downtown. Chat with fur consultants and enjoy light refreshments as you browse among $1 million worth of luxurious furs. It's this Sunday from 11 to 5 only, and only at the Broadway Plaza, 7th at Flower. The $1 million fur sale.
It's at the Broadway.
KNX News Radio time is 8:07.
If you're a bargain hunter, art buff, gold lover, gambler, archaeologist, girl watcher, or just plain sun worshiper, you should be in South America right now. Braniff International will fly you to the land where the American dollar is still worth $1. And like the opposite of a King Midas, everything you touch seems to be half the price you'd expect to pay. Braniff to South America on an Intercontinental DC-862 jet. From there, it's up to you. The Amazon, the Andes, the cities, the beaches. Ask your travel agent about Braniff South America, an adventure and a bargain in flying colors.
Braniff flies nonstop to Lima from Los Angeles and to Brazil, Argentina, or Chile on direct flights. And don't forget, you can use your American Express credit card. And now at 8:08, George Martin in computerized traffic control.
On the Harbor Freeway northbound south of Manchester, an accident. Another report, probably a duplicate of an accident on the Harbor northbound at Florence. Ventura Freeway eastbound between Reseda and White Oak, a possible incident. 605 Freeway southbound south of the Santa Ana Freeway, an accident. Santa Monica Freeway eastbound west of La Brea, they're clearing up a minor accident. San Diego Freeway southbound south of Old Sepulveda, some vehicles over at the side of the road. San Diego Freeway southbound at Braddock, a stalled vehicle. On the transition road from the Golden State Freeway southbound at the San Bernardino Freeway eastbound, a traffic incident. And the Garden Grove Freeway eastbound east of the San Diego Freeway, a stalled vehicle on the center divider. At 8:09, George Martin, KNX Traffic Control.
This portion of the news is sponsored by Adolph Coors Company of Golden, Colorado.
Northern California hospitals have put emergency health care plans into effect. Hundreds of doctors let their insurance lapse today. The doctors are rebelling against the increased malpractice insurance rates, mostly individual coverage at rates tripled and sometimes quadrupled. Anesthesiologists are hardest hit. They say they won't pay the zooming rates for insurance, and by law, they cannot practice without it. Many other doctors are threatening to follow suit. Hospitals are restricting surgery schedules and warn of possible layoffs of hospital employees. The state Senate, meanwhile, has passed temporary legislation designed to assure availability of malpractice insurance for the next 2 years. It was returned to the Assembly for consideration of amendments. In San Francisco, the head of the California Nurses Association says the doctors' protest would reduce the number of patients, but Mrs. Lyle Maples says she hopes the cutback will not affect nurses.
We do not anticipate that there's going to be a large, immediate layoff. We anticipate that it will probably be more by attrition. Representatives of the California Nurses Association and the associated hospitals of San Francisco and the East Bay Area have agreed to work together to identify the patient needs and procedures for reduction in the nursing staff.
Mrs. Lila Maples of the California Nurses Association. Los Angeles area parochial school teachers are battling for union representation. That story from KNX News Radio reporter Mike Landa.
Low pay, lack of job security, no pension benefits, and inadequate medical coverage are some of the complaints being voiced by lay teachers in the Los Angeles Archdiocese. Frank D'Antona, a teacher at St. Bernadette School in Playa del Rey, says teachers are doing more than just complaining. They are petitioning the National Labor Relations Board under the name United Catholic Secondary Teachers Association.
What is happening now is that the board has notified the Archdiocese, and there's a hearing will be set at which the Archdiocese will give their reasons why they do not believe a union is necessary or should be recognized in this case, and those people involved with the United Catholic Secondary Teachers Association will give their reasons why they believe they should represent the teachers in these schools.
Frank D'Antona says if the new teachers union wins legal recognition, an election will be held to determine whom it will represent. This is Mike Landa, KNX News Radio.
Sheriff's deputies say a 10-year-old Compton boy arrested for starting a fire in a vacant apartment at a Compton duplex has confessed to starting 4 similar fires in the area, all in abandoned buildings. The boy was picked up at the scene of the latest fire on South Atlantic Boulevard. The deputies called the fire department and then tried to stop the flames with water from nearby garden hoses. But when county fire units arrived, they were unable to save the duplex. It was a total loss. 2 men sleeping in an adjoining apartment were able to get out safely.
From the very first sip of Coors, America's fine light beer, you'll enjoy all the flavor and thirst-quenching goodness you want in beer. Brewed with pure Rocky Mountain spring water, Coors has a sparkling, refreshing taste, one you'll enjoy every time you drink it. One way to enjoy Coors at its refreshing best is in easy-open aluminum cans. Coors in aluminum chills quickly and retains its natural brewery fresh flavor. Most important, Coors cans are recyclable and worth money to you when returned to a Coors distributor recycling center. To make it worthwhile for everyone to recycle, Coors distributors will buy back all beer and soft drink aluminum cans regardless of brand. Enjoy Coors in easy-open aluminum cans. Then recycle the empties for cash and a better environment. Remember, recycling starts with you.
The State Bar, in cooperation with law schools at the University of California, is trying to help elementary and secondary school teachers develop a better curriculum on the rule of law and our civil liberties. Executive Director Charles Quigley, who spoke to delegates at the State PTA Convention in Los Angeles, believes teachers can learn some lessons from the Watergate experience.
I think it's been tremendously educational. The whole Watergate thing has heightened students' interest in political process. Of course, there are negative aspects. It's reinforced those who have negative attitudes toward political figures, the political system, and so forth. But it's provided, I think, a greater sophistication and greater awareness of what's going on and some of the problems and a greater interest. On the contrary, in some cases, it was talked about so much that they were just sick of it and didn't want to hear about it anymore.
Charles Quigley, Executive Director of the Law in a Free Society and speaker at the 76th annual meeting of the California Congress of Parents and Teachers, underway at the Los Angeles Convention Center. Governor Brown says a Gardner's building in Sacramento's Capitol Park may be converted into a child care center for state workers' children. An earlier suggestion that the outdoor courtyard in the middle of the governor's office suite might be used was abandoned because the area didn't meet many legal requirements. Brown was asked by reporters about a suggestion that the Gardner's building might be taken over, and he said it was a fine idea with him.
And this portion of the news has been sponsored by Adolph Coors Company of Golden, Colorado. Thank you for joining us.
I'm Russ Powell in KNX News Central. The time now is 8:15.
In reply to the KNX editorial of April 24th on the subject of the real estate practice known as 4x4ing, here is another view is Fred Wright, speaking as a private citizen.
I feel that local government has proved capable of dealing with the problem as evidenced by the Los Angeles County Minor Land Division Ordinance. This ordinance is very restrictive and prevents many of the abuses mentioned in the editorial. The 59 counties of California have different needs and requirements, and the local governments in most cases are closer to the people. Land division without all the expense of subdivision preparation is the only way the little guy can realize his ambition of owning his own piece of raw land. There are many localities where improvements such as utilities and pavement are not needed nor wanted. The editorial did not propose that land division in itself is bad or evil. What it did dwell upon was the abuses practiced by some sellers. The proposed cure would in effect burn the barn to kill the rats. Publicity given to cases of disappointed buyers, especially on radio and TV, would do more to combat evils associated with land sales by unscrupulous dealers to hopeful buyers than more laws or the elimination of land division. An informed buyer is a wary buyer, and no amount of government protection can be as effective as the knowledgeable buyer. Is the prevalence of fraud sufficient to justify further restraints on buyers' freedom of choice, which we like to believe we can still exercise in the United States? Again, must we burn the barn to kill the rats? I do not condone the bad practices that now occur and will reoccur as long as people exist. Neither do I think it necessary to put the four-parcel split under the state subdivision laws.
You've just heard Fred Wright, speaking as a private citizen, replying to a previously broadcast KNX editorial.
J.P. McCarthy for Chrysler Corporation. Tax rebate checks up to $200 are being mailed by the millions to stimulate the American economy. In Detroit, Chrysler Corporation announces for a limited time only a simultaneous effort to make tax rebate dollars go even farther. Chrysler is offering to retail customers an additional rebate for a full $200 on their economical compacts. First, you make your best deal with the dealer to buy or lease a new 1975 Dodge Dart, Plymouth Duster, or Valiant. Then Chrysler will send you a $200 check, and you don't have to wait for your tax rebate to get it. This offer is limited to one to a customer on cars in stock at participating Dodge or Chrysler Plymouth dealers. It's quite a package for the economy. Up to a $200 tax rebate from the government, a full $200 rebate from Chrysler on their economical compacts. Better see your Dodge or Chrysler Plymouth dealer today. He wants to make your tax rebate go farther.
We have a temperature reading of 56 degrees here at Columbia Square in Hollywood. The time is 8:18. What makes it a great day in the morning? A good breakfast, including milk, of course. Because milk has nutrients that help keep you going the rest of the day. So sip on a good breakfast and top it off with a nice big glass of milk. And if that isn't the top of the morning, what is?
Good mornings get better, get better and better. Good mornings get better with milk.
Sponsored by the California Milk Advisory Board.
Update from across the nation and around the world on KNX News Radio 1070.
Jubilant communist troops celebrated their conquest of Saigon, which they have rechristened Ho Chi Minh City with a parade today. They were joined by 3,000 Saigon residents. As the May Day parade wound through downtown Saigon, the Viet Cong announced total victory in the Mekong Delta, where 3 government divisions held out briefly after the surrender of Saigon. President Ford sent a letter to congressional leaders today asking for immediate approval of $327 million for Indo-Chinese refugees, and the House has agreed to vote on final approval. The defense presents its case today at the first ecclesiastical trial by the Washington Diocese of the Episcopal Church in the 20th century. On trial, the Reverend William Wendt. He is charged with disobeying his bishop and violating his vows by allowing a woman to celebrate communion at his church. The Ford administration is expected to announce today a bicentennial savings bond program. President Ford is said to be considering inaugurating the campaign by buying a $200 bond at a ceremony at the White House. The time is 8:20, and the KNX News Radio Sports Report with Alan Slate is sponsored by Imperial Savings, with over 70 offices throughout California to serve you. Good morning, Al.
Good morning, Russ, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. One day soon, Dodger manager Walt Alston is going to be faced with a problem: what to do with Lee Lacy. The Dodger injury list gave Lacy some playing time, and Lacy created the problem with his bat. He's hit safely in 8 of 9 games, going 16 for 33, including 3 hits last night and 2 runs batted in, and is officially the National League's leading batter at .432. So what do you do when the injured come back? It was Lacy's batting that set up a pair of runs, drove in 2 others in the Dodgers' 7th win in a row, a 5-2 job on the Atlanta Braves last night. This was no job against a bunch of patsies. The Dodgers beat Carl Morton, who had won 5 without a loss. Doug Rauh went all the way for the Dodgers for his 3rd win of the season. And the local club has the night off, opening a series Friday night with the San Diego Padres. The Padres snapped a 5-game losing string by beating Houston 4-2 last night. So the Dodger division lead is 3 games over both San Diego and Cincinnati, though the Reds won yesterday, as did Chicago, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh. The Angels are tied for first place in the American Western Division, with the Oakland A's scrambling back for a run in the 6th, 1 in the 8th, and 2 in the 9th. The Angels came from behind last night to beat Kansas City 7-6, with Tommy Harper and Bruce Bochy supplying the power with a pair of doubles. Mickey Scott was credited with the win, Bill Singer with a save. Singer is scheduled to start tonight when the same 2 clubs meet in Kansas City for the Royals. The other American League winners yesterday were Milwaukee, Texas, New York, and Cleveland. Oakland was rained out at Minnesota. More sports in a moment.
Hi, this is Eddie Albert for Imperial Savings. Have you been shopping in the stores lately? Then you've probably noticed how great it is when someone goes out of his way to help. Gives you extra courteous service. These days, we appreciate good service more than ever. Maybe it's because we want to get back to the basics of life, the simple things that really count. That's why it's such a pleasure to save at Imperial, where service is still so important, and where you always receive the highest interest rates and get complete safety with accounts insured to $40,000, plus many free services. Imperial has over 70 offices statewide, convenience and service. That's Imperial Savings.
If you're not covered by a retirement program at work, start your own with Imperial's new individual retirement plan. Ask about how you can save 1,500 tax-deferred dollars, or up to 15% of your income every year, now at Imperial Savings. Well, the Washington Bullets are treating the defending NBA champion Boston Celtics with impunity. The playoffs are supposed to be a Boston specialty, but Elvin Hayes and company ripped the Celtics 117-92 to make it 2-0 in their semifinal series. That series at 1 each. In the National Hockey League semifinals, Montreal fans hope that home ice will do the job for their club. Down 2-0 as Game 3 with Buffalo goes tonight. At Philadelphia, the Flyers will be trying for a second win in their series with the New York Islanders. They lead 1-0. The Houston Open Golf Tournament is scheduled to begin today, but rain has slowed the course and scores are expected to be on the high side. Nicholas, Weiskopf, and Miller are sitting this one out. And there's a certified check for $500,000 in the mail to Joe Namath from the World Football League. All he has to do is cash the check, and the league is in business. They're ready to back that $4 million offer with more of the long green. An 11-team schedule is to be released soon, starting August the 2nd. That's sports. I'm Alan Slade. Have a nice day. Here again is Russ Powell.
Thank you, Al. The KNX Sports Report was sponsored by Imperial Savings and Loan. The time now is 8:24.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your food bill grow? That's inflationary, Mary. No wonder you're contrary. But there are other ways to go. Get a Ho and Vigoro. All-purpose fertilizer makes everything you grow better.
So sow your seeds and then get growing with Vigoro to get you going. You'll have carrots, lettuce, beets, and beans, tomatoes, squash, and turnip greens right in your own backyard. There, Mare, you've grown a symphony of salad days. And you did it with your own 2 hands. Anyone who's done it understands that with everything else you've grown a pride inside. And as your stuff comes up, your bills go down. Economic salvation. What a way to whip inflation. Outgrow it with Vigoro in your own vegetable garden. Can you dig it?
And now at 8:25, Jerry Dunphy's personal file is sponsored by United Airlines.
A new survey indicates that American families cling to traditional values, but there are some stresses and changes caused by the economic squeeze. And there's a large group which feels the government has an obligation to guarantee everyone a good job and a decent standard of living. But the study shows a majority of U.S. citizens continue to believe in the work ethic and related ideas. There's more on that survey. I'll have it for you in a moment.
Celebrate! United Airlines invites you to celebrate the historic East at a price worth celebrating. A family can save on round-trip coach fare to the historic East when they buy any United inclusive tour package. And they can save again on hotels and rental cars. However, certain restrictions apply. So call your travel agent or United to see how you can qualify. Then come celebrate and save to the historic East.
Sing a song of celebration, people, now's the time. The friendly skies of your land, United Airlines.
A family of 3 with a child under 12 can save $208 on round-trip coach fare to Washington. Savings are based on United's individual tour basing fares.
A recent survey indicates that Americans cling to old values, but that a large number feel government should underwrite a good job and a decent standard of living for everybody. The framers of that survey report that 50% of those responding agreed with a statement expressing what the report called the psychology of entitlement. The survey, covering a scientific cross-section of U.S. families, was conducted by a New York firm commissioned by General Mills Incorporated. The study was done during midwinter. The last interview was being conducted last January. Despite the faltering economy, the report says many families are being kept going financially by the twin forces of what they call the Protestant ethic and working wives. The study says the Protestant ethic continues to dominate the value structure of the American family. 56% of all Americans, it says, are strongly committed to such traditional beliefs as duty before pleasure, hard work pays off, religion, and saving, even if it means sacrificing. The report says that in 4 out of 10 families surveyed, wives are working, either full or part-time. The survey says many families need help in setting up and sticking to budgets, in the use of credit, in how to repair products, and how to stretch the life of furniture, household goods, and automobiles. They also need help in finding family amusements that don't cost money. Families studied report making major changes in the way they live, such as cutting down on electricity, staying home more, not eating in restaurants, buying fewer clothes and gifts, and repairing things that once would have been discarded. The study came up with some encouraging news, too, what it called a picture of the great strengths and adaptive capabilities of the American family. It said that in meeting economic adversity, the family is showing flexibility, sturdiness, and vitality. This is Jerry Dunphy for KNX News Radio.
Jerry Dunphy's personal file was sponsored by United Airlines. Well, George Martin is standing by now in KNX computerized traffic control, and here's his report.
On the Ventura Freeway eastbound on the Balboa on-ramp, the Highway Patrol on the scene of a non-injury accident. Santa Ana Freeway northbound north of Atlantic on the off-ramp to Telegraph, an accident. Long Beach Freeway northbound north of Firestone, a one-vehicle accident. San Bernardino Freeway westbound transition road to the Orange Freeway southbound, a couple of stalled vehicles. Ventura Freeway eastbound west of Haskell, a disabled vehicle. Accidents being cleared up on the Harbor Freeway northbound around Florence, the 605 Freeway southbound south of the Santa Ana Freeway, and the Santa Monica Freeway eastbound west of La Brea. At 8:30, George Martin, KNX Traffic Control.
And I'm Russ Powell in KNX News Central.
Morning, noon, and night. Get it first, get it right. Stay in tune with the 70s. KNX News Radio, 1070 Los Angeles.
The White House, President Ford asked Congress for $327 million, which he says is desperately needed to get the South Vietnamese refugees squared away. Bangkok, South Vietnamese pilots make it to Thailand with 1,400 refugees in a last-minute desperation flight. Saigon, 3,000 residents join victorious communist troops in May Day parade celebrating the end of the war. Cleveland, Bob Hope, whose troop of volunteers entertained U.S. servicemen in Vietnam every Christmas during the long U.S. involvement, expresses sadness at the fall of South Vietnam. Sacramento, author of a bill to repeal the oil depletion allowance, will try again to pick up the 2 votes he needs to gain passage in the state Senate. Details of these and other stories coming up on KNX News Radio, your 50,000-watt news voice for Southern California. Coastal sections will have cloudiness in Southern California today and tomorrow. Otherwise, our weather in the Southland should be generally fair. We'll have a mix of smog in some areas. Hazy sunshine again on tap for metropolitan Los Angeles, and the high in the downtown Los Angeles area should be in the upper 60s.
Open up your eyes, hey, look around you. There's a lot of world you've never seen.
If you're leaving the country on business in the near future, we have a suggestion. Fly Pan Am. Since Pan Am's worldwide network takes in 109 cities and 72 countries on all 6 continents, our schedule will be convenient enough so that when your business is done, you'll have a moment or two to see some of the world you've never seen.
Welcome to our world. Welcome to our world. Welcome to the world of Pan Am. Welcome to the world of Pan Am.
The fastest single plane service between Los Angeles and Tokyo will be Pan Am 747 starting May 22nd. Also, you'll avoid commuter hour traffic to the airport both here and in Tokyo if you ask your travel agent to put you on Pan Am. KNX News Radio time is 8:32. Try to imagine $1 million worth of furs all in one place. That's what you'll find this Sunday from 11 to 5 at the beautiful Broadway and Broadway Plaza, 7th at Flower downtown. Chat with fur consultants and enjoy light refreshments as you browse among $1 million worth of luxurious furs. It's this Sunday from 11 to 5 only, and only at the Broadway Plaza, 7th and Flower. The $1 Million Fur Sale.
It's at the Broadway.
President Ford has sent a message to Capitol Hill calling for the appropriation of $327 million in what he calls desperately needed funds to get up to 70,000 South Vietnamese refugees resettled in this country. The House has agreed to vote on final approval, but Democratic Congressman Philip Burton of California stalled the action by forcing a time-consuming roll call vote on whether to read the previous day's journal. In his message to the Hill, President Ford said, "The evacuation has been completed. The Congress may be assured that I do not intend to send the armed forces of the United States back into Vietnamese territory." The humanitarian bill already has been approved by the Senate in a form which granted President Ford the power to use the armed forces in a limited manner to cover the evacuation of Americans. That feature of the legislation became moot when the President, acting on his own, sent in 1,800 Marines and a Navy fighter canopy to safeguard the evacuation. Even so, Republican Senator Jacob Javits of New York urged the House to pass the measure as approved by the Senate, including the evacuation authority. This, said Javits, so that Congress, by law, may be established as a full partner in war-making decisions. South Vietnamese pilots have ferried nearly 1,400 of their countrymen to Thailand in last-minute desperation flights from Saigon. And CBS News correspondent Bruce Dunning in Guam says their experiences were harrowing.
They told stories of overloading American-built cargo planes to 3 times their normal capacity. Stories of jamming up to 5 people in the cockpits of 2-man jet fighters. They made their last desperate run from Vietnam to the American air base at Utapao in Thailand, the base from which the American B-52s once left for bombing missions over Indochina. One pilot told me of leaving his base at Con To in the delta of South Vietnam moments after he heard General Dong Van Big Min announce Saigon's surrender. The pilot said Viet Cong forces were about a mile from the gates of his base. Another man told of loading as many as 300 people, he really doesn't know how many, into a C-130 transport plane, which normally carries about 100 people. The Thais are not permitting South Vietnamese Air Force men to remain in Thailand, and so they are being shuttled quickly to the massive evacuee centers on Guam. Bruce Denning, CBS News, Guam.
KNX News Radio time is 8:35. In Cleveland, comedian Bob Hope, whose troupe entertained American soldiers in Vietnam for years, says he is saddened by the fall of the South Vietnamese government.
We made our commitment, and I just think that I hope in the long run that we were right. I know the sacrifice of lives has been tremendous and everything, but who is to tell? We certainly had great intentions, and I was witness to a lot of it, and I just pray for those people.
Comedian Bob Hope. Japanese news correspondents in Saigon say an estimated 3,000 South Vietnamese citizens have joined communist troops in a May Day parade through the capital, celebrating the end of the 30-year war. Meanwhile, the Provisional Revolutionary Government says the last 4 provinces in the Mekong Delta have surrendered, and the Viet Cong now are in complete control of South Vietnam. Beginning today, Americans will get more money in their pay envelopes, collectively nearly $8 billion to spend over the rest of the year. KNX News Radio reporter Mike Landa has that story.
What happens today is that employers will begin withholding less money from wages of employees. That's the result of legislation signed by President Ford last month in an effort to revive the slumping economy. Tax rebates are also part of the plan and are being processed right now. The withholding tax cuts, which take effect today, may not seem big when considered on a weekly basis, but IRS spokesman Vel Baker in Los Angeles says the tax savings do add up. For example, a single taxpayer earning $10,000 a year will save $178 annually under the revised schedules.
That same person who is married with 2 children would have a tax under the current withholding rate of approximately $867. That is, a married couple with 2 children earning $10,000 gross income. But under the new withholding tables, he will realize a $258 tax reduction.
On a weekly basis, Baker says that would mean $4.96 more take-home pay for that particular wage earner. Overall, the revised tax tables will provide Americans with $7.8 billion in additional spending money this year. This is Mike Landa, KNX News Radio.
And now a special message from downtown L.A. Motors, Mercedes-Benz. This year, maybe you shouldn't buy a car at all. Maybe you should lease one. Downtown L.A. Motors, Mercedes-Benz knows that leasing is making sense for more and more people, especially Mercedes-Benz leasing. Last year, nearly 1 out of every 4 new cars was leased. At downtown L.A. Motors, Mercedes-Benz, they can explain the whole Mercedes-Benz leasing story to you. They think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Their leasing department can arrange for you to have the use of any Mercedes-Benz you choose. When the lease is over, usually after 2 or 3 years, downtown L.A. Motors Mercedes-Benz can have a brand new Mercedes-Benz waiting for you. No worrying about selling your previous car, no time-consuming shopping and haggling for a new one. If you don't want to tie up a lot of your money owning a car, go in to see the leasing experts at downtown L.A. Motors Mercedes-Benz or call 748-8951. That's 748-8951. They'll custom tailor a lease to your needs. Downtown L.A. Motors Mercedes-Benz. That's Figueroa at Venice for Mercedes-Benz Leasing, one of the world's largest Mercedes-Benz dealers. KNX News Radio time is 8:38.
With us today, the noted memory expert, Dr.
Who
will help us memorize all the delicious items that go into a family value pack from Colonel Sanders that feeds 4 or more for only $4.94.
So what's the first thing you got?
10 plump pieces of juicy golden brown Kentucky Fried Chicken.
10 Kentucky Chicky.
A pint of tangy coleslaw, a pint of mashed potatoes with gravy.
That's a lot of pints.
And 5 fresh rolls.
You're really rolling in there.
Well, that's why it's such a great value, Doctor. But how would we go about memorizing all that?
Simple. You just ask for 10,
plump pieces of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, and a pint of,
tangy coleslaw and a pint of mashed potatoes with gravy.
And those round things.
5 fresh rolls.
Yeah, and that feeds a whole bunch of,
4 or more for only $4.94.
You got it.
Maybe they just better ask for the special.
I don't know. Special is a tricky word.
For one of the best food values in town, get the Colonel's $4.94 value pack right now at participating locations. Here's George Martin in KNX Computerized Traffic Control at 8:39.
On the Orange Freeway northbound south of Orangethorpe, an accident. That's Orangethorpe. On the Orange Freeway near Pathfinder, another traffic problem. San Diego Freeway southbound, south of the Harbor Freeway, a stalled vehicle. Ventura Freeway eastbound on the Balboa on-ramp, an accident being cleared up. Another on the Santa Ana Freeway northbound north of Atlantic. And still another, a one-vehicle affair on the Long Beach Freeway northbound north of Firestone. At 8:40, George Martin, KNX Traffic Control.
An attempt to change tax laws which benefit major oil companies in California still is pending in Sacramento. The state Senate is expected to reconsider a measure calling for repeal of the oil depletion allowance sometime this week. Several days ago, the bill failed to win approval by only 2 votes. Author of that measure, Assemblyman Bill Lockyer of Alameda County, says he doubts consumers will be forced to absorb the $43 million in lost tax breaks for oil companies.
If the price of gas were 59 9/10 for a gallon right now, and this passed, it would not even raise that cost to 60 cents a gallon. It would not move the lever on the machine in the gas station up a tenth. So I don't frankly see how it can be necessarily passed on, although that, of course, is a continuing danger with any tax.
Democratic Assemblyman Bill Lockyer of Oakland. It wasn't played according to Hoyle this morning at a Gardena poker palace. Gardena police officer Earl Pitts tells KNX News Radio a poker club was hit by a robber in the wee hours.
The suspect entered the club, and he approached one of the cashier cages. He placed a note and a brown paper bag on the counter. And the note indicated that the bag contained a radio-activated type bomb, and instructed the cashier to give him the money and then not to set off the alarm until he left the building. And with that, he threw the bag over into the cashier's cage and left the building with about $20,000.
Officer Pitts says they're still looking for the thief. Well, television is not as vast a wasteland as former FCC Commissioner Newton Minow once suggested. In fact, in the opinion of those who eyeball it, television is more in the nature of a lush oasis, surrounded by the bleached bones and desolation of local government, the church, schools, and police. A Roper poll conducted for the Television Information Office says that in the past 15 years, television's performance in the estimation of viewers has risen from 59% to 71%. In the same time frame, Americans have downgraded their estimation of public schools from 64% to 50%, newspapers from 64% to 58%, and local government from 44% to 35%. 65% said TV is the prime source of their news. And the record 81% of those polls said they would oppose government regulation of TV news.
When you move as fast as Edward Ginn, director of Sheraton South American Sales, you need an airline that can keep up the pace. Maybe that's why Mr. Ginn is such a frequent passenger on Braniff International. After all, we're going with a schedule of flights geared to keep up with the American businessman. 37 non-stop flights, 100 direct and connecting flights from here to South America every week, all on our Intercontinental DC-8 62 jets. No wonder Ed Ginn flies Braniff so often. It makes sense, not only for him, but for Braniff as well. Braniff to South America, coming through with flying colors.
And Braniff flies nonstop to Lima, Peru from Los Angeles 3 times every week. And don't forget, you can use your American Express card to pay for your ticket. Here's something to think about. Tomorrow afternoon, will you be the winner of $1,070 in cash? Right now is a good time to become eligible for the third drawing, May 16th. Print your name and address on standard-sized postcards and mail them to KNX 1070 Contest, Post Office Box 1070, Hollywood, California. The zip is 90028. And remember, tomorrow afternoon, right here on KNX News Radio, we'll announce the second winner of $1,070. Turning to sports at 8:44, a field of 15 horses will be running in Saturday's 101st Kentucky Derby in Louisville. And Foolish Pleasure, the early favorite for the mile-and-a-quarter event, has drawn the number 3 spot. KNX News Radio will air that race live from Churchill Downs. The Dodgers are taking the day off after running their win streak to 7 games. They beat Atlanta 5-2. The Angels moved into a tie for first place with a 7-6 victory over Kansas City. And the Padres snapped their 5-game losing streak, downing Houston 4-2. Chicago and Washington were victors in last night's NBA semifinal playoffs. The Bulls edged Golden State 90-89, and Washington trounced Boston 117-92. The World Football League officials have scheduled an 18-game regular season starting August 2nd, and they say their $4 million offer to New York Jet quarterback Joe Namath is for real. The time now is 8:45, and KNX News Radio financial editor Jerry Laird is standing by with another live report from the Pacific Stock Exchange. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, Russ. Stocks are narrowly on the upside as prices have backed off on profit-taking after a strong opening. Advances lead declines now by a 7-to-4 ratio. The industrials average up 2.11 at 823.45. Transportation's up 0.12, utilities plus 0.44. Volume, 9 million shares. Oils are mixed. Union Oil up 0.5. Arco is down 1 3/8. IBM is down 7/8. Ford is up 3/8 despite reporting a first quarter loss. Golds are narrowly mixed. SS Kresge's 4-week sales ended April 23rd were up 12% from a year earlier. Sears' April sales were down 2.9%. Montgomery Ward down 3.7%. General Dynamics first quarter earnings $1.35 a share, up from last year's 72 cents. And Stern Dent has rejected an offer to acquire the firm for $18 a share. Stern Dent increased its quarterly dividend from 3 cents to 10 cents a share. More in a moment.
Gibraltar Savings' new 8+ account yields more than 8% per year, plus insured safety.
Over 8% and safe. Why, that's great.
It's Gibraltar's minimum $1,000 6-year certificate. The guaranteed rate is 7 3/4%, but because Gibraltar compounds interest daily, when funds are left in the account, the actual yield is 8.06.
Over 8% per year. Well, how much will I actually earn?
Each $1,000 earns over $591 interest in 6 years, over $1,170 in 10 years.
Let's see. Why, that averages over $117 per year per 1,000.
Right, and your money is insured to $40,000 by a federal agency. There's a substantial interest penalty on early withdrawal.
8+. Well, sounds like a safe, long-term, high-interest investment.
Yes, indeed. Plus free services. Plus open Saturdays.
Plus 8+.
At statewide Gibraltar Savings. Resources $1.6 billion.
Once again, here's Jerry.
General Motors and Chrysler will operate all of their U.S. car and truck plants next week. No report yet on Ford's plans for next week. Fed Chairman Arthur Burns, testifying before the Senate Banking Committee, says interest rates probably will begin to rise as the economy recovers, but he expects inflation next year will be at a 5% rate. Burns said the Fed will increase the money supply 5 to 7.5% in the 12 months ended next March. The British government has published its legislation to nationalize the aircraft, shipbuilding, and diesel marine engine industries. The bill calls for a radical change in labor management relationships to bring about a fundamental and irreversible shift of power in favor of all those who work in industry. The Federal Home Loan Bank Board has raised the reserve liquidity requirements for federal S&Ls from 5.5% to 6% effective June 1st. London gold down $1 on the day at the afternoon fixing at 166 even. Trading is very quiet, a holiday in most of Europe. London silver down 12 cents at $4.30. The industrials average now is up 1.95. Jerry Laird, KNX News Radio.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your food bill grow? That's inflationary, Mary. No wonder you're contrary. But there are other ways to go. Get a hoe and Vigoro. All-purpose fertilizer makes everything you grow better. So sow your seeds and then get growing with Vigoro to get you going. You'll have carrots, lettuce, beets, and beans, tomatoes, squash, and turnip greens right in your own backyard. There, Mare, you've grown a symphony of salad days. And you did it with your own 2 hands. Anyone who's done it understands that with everything else you've grown a pride inside. And as your stuff comes up, your bills go down. Economic salvation. What a way to whip inflation. Outgrow it with Vigoro in your own vegetable garden. Can you dig it?
56 degrees in Hollywood. KNX News Radio time is 8:49.
Update from across the nation and around the world on KNX News Radio 1070.
The Viet Cong announced that they have reached total victory in the Mekong Delta, where some South Vietnamese troops had continued to resist after the surrender of Saigon. North Vietnam is demanding that the United States end what Hanoi says is forced evacuation of South Vietnamese refugees. Hanoi wants the U.S. to pull its ships out of the waters around Vietnam. Egyptian President Sadat says that he's going to start new diplomatic efforts to get Israel to withdraw from occupied territory. Israel says it is ready to give up at least one key area. And Democrats have gained another month to come up with an alternate energy program. President Ford has delayed his planned tariff boost of imported oil to give Congress more time to act. Only one Los Angeles radio station has the worldwide coverage of CBS News. KNX is the one.
Newsbreak. I really don't have any idea, except that I think it's going to be fairly difficult, given the economic situation of the world and of the states at this juncture of time.
Nguyen Tu Ban, formerly a high school teacher in South Vietnam, is now a refugee and a resident of the tent city at Camp Pendleton, California. He is facing uncertain job prospects in the United States. Also hoping she can be employed is another refugee there, a former secretary, Phan Soleil.
I don't know yet, because they might have need more qualification than what I did in Vietnam.
I'm Steve Young, CBS News, reporting on the CBS radio network. South Vietnamese refugees are encountering some hostile reaction from each other in some instances and from Americans. But they also will find that some Americans want to help. We'll talk with one after this message.
It's frustrating being a Rust-Oleum dealer, Doc. People coming in for Rust-Oleum coatings on weekdays when I sell them only on weekends. You probably think I'm crazy.
That's not crazy.
They demand Rust-Oleum. It stops the rust, comes in 40 colors.
Well, that's not crazy.
If I sold Rust-Oleum on weekdays, people would start using it on weekdays, painting all their rusty railings and outdoor furniture. They'd forget to go to work and all.
Well, that's not crazy.
So I just refuse to take their money.
Now, that's crazy.
Stop the rust this weekend with Rust-Oleum.
Hi, I'm Helen O'Connell. Remember when couples danced cheek to cheek to the music of the big bands? I sang with Jimmy Dorsey then, and sugar cost about 7 cents a pound. Boy, how times have changed. People have, too. They're reaching for Weight Watchers granulated sweetener because it sweetens like sugar, but it's a whole lot easier on your figure and your pocketbook. Weight Watchers sweetener. Weight Watchers. You couldn't ask for a better name.
Some 70,000 South Vietnamese refugees left their country in the days before the communist takeover. Many are destined for the United States, and that has caused considerable consternation on the part of communities surrounding the settlement camps and the 3 states in which they are located. People are expressing concern that in the midst of a recession, the last thing this country needs is so large a number of refugees. They would prefer that money be spent instead on America's own needy citizens. A manufacturer from Hamilton, Ohio, has been dismayed by that attitude. Andrew Kornelak is trying to provide a small helping hand. He hopes other businessmen will follow his lead.
I intend to pay for the transportation of 2 Vietnamese families, preferably a head of family, a wife, and children, to Hamilton, to guarantee the head of families a job for 1 year, and to help them find living quarters, to coordinate with other people in town to be sure that they're treated well, to advance the money to be paid out of payroll for any initial expenses they might have. The only stipulation I've put in my own mind so far is that the head of family be somewhere between 20 and 40 years old, because I figure that we'll be having to train the person doing the work.
We've seen a lot of stories about persons and communities who are apprehensive about accepting refugees. Are you saying that for people such as yourself who might want to welcome them and help them, that there's nothing been set up by our government to...
Oh, no, I am not. I am saying that we ought to do something immediately. It discourages me in a country as wealthy as we are that we're setting them up in a tent city with the tents within touching distance of each other, and leaving these poor people, even though we say they'll be there for a few months, I suspect they'll be there for an awful long time.
What's been your reaction to the individuals in the communities who have expressed apprehension about accepting refugees in the middle of a recession?
I have felt, a feeling of disgust when I hear people who I know are not that badly off, And here are people who have lost people in their own families, either crippled or killed. They've lost all their possessions. They've left their native lands. They're in a strange area. We haven't given them a welcome.
Colonel Lack doesn't think Hamilton, Ohio will have much trouble absorbing the refugee families. He's tried to get other manufacturers in town to sponsor additional families, so far without success. He's found out that for the moment, the federal government hasn't set up any organized program for American businessmen who want to help the refugees find jobs and a place to live. Reports today indicate some discord even before the refugees reach the continental United States. High-ranking South Vietnamese officers and their wives reportedly are keeping to their tents at refugee camps on Guam. The mass of refugees are said to be hostile, feeling that the war was lost because the generals were corrupt. Now this message.
You know, the real professionals never stop studying. It's not just true for doctors and lawyers. And that's why we developed the John Hancock Institute in Boston, where many Hancock agents learn the latest changes in group insurance for your business, as well as the newest developments in life insurance to protect your family. At Hancock, we never stop learning.
Put your John Hancock on a John Hancock for your family, for your family.
Newsbreak. I'm Steve Young, CBS News.
Update from inside California and throughout the West on KNX News Radio 1070.
Law enforcement officials at the Sacramento trial of two reported Simeonese Liberation Army members are taking action against one court spectator. KNX News Radio correspondent Harry Warren reports from the Sacramento County Courthouse.
Sheriff's officers have identified the person who screamed, "Kill, kill," at the height of Tuesday's turmoil in the Sacramento Superior Courtroom when Russell Little attacked witness Christopher Thompson. She is 18-year-old Diane Daly of Oakland, who has been a daily spectator since the trial began a month ago. The district attorney's office is expected to announce this morning that she will be charged with at least one count, disturbing the peace. Meanwhile, she has been barred from the courtroom for the duration of the trial. Harry Warren at the Sacramento County Courthouse.
The time is 8:57, and here is George Martin in KNX Computerized Traffic Control.
On the Orange Freeway northbound north of the San Bernardino Freeway, an accident. Another accident being cleared on the Orange Freeway northbound south of Orangethorpe. Long Beach Freeway southbound at the Bandini off-ramp, a reported accident. San Diego Freeway southbound south of the Long Beach Freeway, a traffic hazard. On the Pomona Freeway westbound west of Paramount, a stalled vehicle. Another on the 605 Freeway southbound south of Artesia. At 8:57, George Martin, KNX Traffic Control.
A natural gas leak in an underground storage field in Playa del Rey has been plugged and capped by field workers of the Southern California Gas Company. It took them 5 hours after the leak was first discovered late yesterday. That rupture was in the casing of the underground well, allowing a mixture of oil, water, and gas to escape into the air under low pressure. Workmen stopped the leak by pumping salt water into the well. The San Diego Unified Port District extended for another 8 months a midnight to 6:30 a.m. curfew on all airplane flights to or from Lindbergh Field. That curfew was imposed last September to keep the runways clear for a $1.4 million repair project. The cleanup project was to have been completed by mid-May, but the port commissioners say they have been told it won't be done until early next year. Spokesman for the Air Transport Association said the group probably will go to court to stop the curfew. The Southern California Rapid Transit District is instituting new lower fares for people with physical disabilities. District spokesman Pat Berry tells KNX News Radio some people will be eligible to ride the bus for a dime with the new special passes.
As of today, individuals with certain permanent or temporary disabilities will be able to ride RTD buses within Los Angeles County and the city of Riverside for just 10 cents. In other parts of our service district where the 25-cent fare is not in effect, their new fare will be only 1/2 of what it usually is.
To see if you qualify for the new reduced bus fares, Berry suggests you write to the RTD for an application form. In South San Francisco, movie star Dan Daly has been fined $150 for disturbing the peace in the aftermath of an incident at San Francisco International Airport March 24th. The 59-year-old Daly, who was not in court, was fined after his attorney dropped the actor's earlier plea of innocent and entered a plea of no contest to disturbing the peace. Your dial is set at 1070. In the coming hour, you will hear news as it is happening on KNX News Radio from Mike Landa. He'll be back with a report on a clinic to provide anti-rabies shots for dogs in Los Angeles. Bernard Shaw will report from Washington on a South Vietnamese diplomat who warns about dealing with his country's new government. You'll hear a congresswoman saying the U.S. should grant full amnesty to American deserters and draft evaders now that the war is over. David Capper will have details in Belfast of the election being held in Northern Ireland. Plus, George McManus with San Francisco Report and Hank Grant with entertainment news. I'm Russ Powell for KNX Los Angeles. CBS News covers the world at 9 o'clock.
CBS News. Communist troops staged a combined Victory and May Day parade today through the streets of Saigon. And the PRG, the Provisional Revolutionary Government of South Vietnam, has declared the last pockets of resistance wiped out, giving it full control over all parts of the country, including the Mekong Delta. I'm Richard C. Hontelet, reporting on the CBS radio network. North Vietnam has demanded that the United States stop picking up Vietnamese refugees off the coast. A Hanoi radio broadcast called the evacuation and the continued presence of U.S. Navy ships in the area interference in the affairs of South Vietnam. But Washington is paying no heed, as White House correspondent Phil Jones reports.
President Ford has given orders for American military ships to remain in international waters off the shore of South Vietnam and pick up South Vietnamese who are still fleeing by small boats. In answer to opposition here at home to relocation of South Vietnamese refugees, News Secretary Ron Nessen said the president feels there is an American tradition to show charity and compassion, and he expects this tradition to continue with the South Vietnamese. According to Nessen, about 90% of the refugees are expected to settle in the United States. Many of these people already have families or sponsors in this country. Nessen was asked again today about the disclosure of a letter sent by former President Nixon to President Tu, promising full force if Hanoi broke the Paris Peace Accords. Nessen reacted with a terse statement saying the war is over and the issue is academic. When faced with persistent questioning on the matter, Nessen ended the briefing. Phil Jones, CBS News, the White House.
The House of Representatives has just defeated President Ford's request for $327 million in emergency funds for Vietnamese refugees. The president appealed to Congress today to pass the measure, saying that the funds are desperately needed now. The president included a promise not to send United States troops back to Vietnam. More CBS News after this.
We're the old one, too. I get you in the head, and I get you in the stomach. So enjoy your party. Eat, drink, dance until dawn, so you'll be late for work. We'll see you in the morning. We're the old one, too. Alka-Seltzer, let's get out of here.
For aches and pains with upset stomach, try Alka-Seltzer with specially buffered aspirin plus antacids. Use only as directed. It gives the old one, too, the old one, too.
Henley's Hardware.
My husband just came back from there with paintbrushes and a scraper, but you wouldn't sell him any Rust-Oleum.
Only on weekends, ma'am.
What do you mean weekends?
If we sold Rust-Oleum coatings on weekdays, people might get carried away stopping rust and forget about going to work and all. Sorry, ma'am, but I'll never sell you Rust-Oleum on a weekday.
What's your name, young man?
Dave.
Okay, Dave. I'm coming in there right now, and I'm coming out with Rust-Oleum.
Hey, Dave, I'm going to lunch now.
Stop the rust this weekend with Rust-Oleum.
The royal government of Cambodia, headed by Prince Norodom Sihanouk, has assumed Cambodia's seat in the United Nations. In a message from Peking, the foreign minister of Grunk informed the UN that Cambodia's seat had been illegally occupied since March 1970 by, quote, a handful of traitors in the pay of United States imperialism. Grunk, or whoever is now in charge in Cambodia, is not speeding the departure of 610 foreigners who had been interned in Phnom Penh since the fall of the city. Mike Snitowski reports.
More than 600 foreigners reportedly traveling to Thailand in a caravan of trucks are stranded somewhere between Phnom Penh and the Cambodian border. According to Khmer Rouge border guards, the trucks may have run out of gasoline, and Cambodian officials reportedly were having difficulty finding more. This was an earlier report, and the foreigners are now believed to be close to the border. At one point, Thailand's French ambassador, Jean-Louis Toffin, went to discuss the matter with the local Khmer Rouge leader, but was met only by a Khmer Rouge soldier who said he needed aspirin for his toothache. The ambassador tossed the soldier a package of aspirin tablets. The soldier smiled, turned, and left without saying when the foreigners might arrive. No one seemed to know. Mike Snitowski for CBS News at Aranya Patet along the Thai-Cambodian border.
The stock market report after this.
It's here, at your Cadillac dealers. Seville, a new expression of Cadillac excellence. Seville, a new kind of luxury car that's international in size, timeless in styling, Cadillac in craftsmanship. It's here, the car everyone's been talking about. Seville by Cadillac, designed for American tastes, but at home anywhere in the world. Seville is a car complete with a host of features standard, including an electronic fuel-injected 5.7-liter engine. Seville is a car of comfort, a car of efficiency. In mileage tests conducted by the Environmental Protection Agency, Seville got 19 miles per gallon in the highway test and 13 miles per gallon in the city test. It's here, a new expression of Cadillac excellence. Seville by Cadillac. See it, drive it, at your Cadillac dealers now.
Wall Street has been on the upside this morning, and at noon, the Dow Jones average is higher, 1.80. Volume on the big board, a brisk 9,350,000 shares. The Dow Jones Industrial Average stands at 823.14. Richard C. Hottelet, CBS News.
Morning, noon, and night. Get it first. Get it right. Stay in tune with the 70s. KNX News Radio, 1070, Los Angeles.
And a very pleasant good morning, everyone. The time is 9:06, and I'm Russ Powell for KNX News Radio, your 50,000-watt news voice for Southern California. Now the major stories in Los Angeles and the West for Thursday, May the 1st. Camp Pendleton reported working around the clock to take care of arriving Vietnam refugees, and another camp is opened at San Onofre. Teacher delegates at the annual state PTA convention in Los Angeles are getting tips on how to improve student understanding of government and the legal system. A former Long Beach City councilman, now on probation, faces more legal trouble today in Compton Municipal Court. And the bill to prevent any gouging of moviegoers on their popcorn and candy purchases is approved by a state assembly committee. Southern California coastal sections will have cloudiness today and tomorrow. Otherwise, weather in the Southland should be generally fair. Hazy sunshine again in metropolitan Los Angeles this afternoon, and the high today and tomorrow at Civic Center will be in the upper 60s.
Where's a good place where I can save more? Admiral Value Day. What's the sign say, the one on the door? Admiral Value Day. You mean this is the one I've been looking for? Admiral Value Day.
Stop by and see the Admiral 3-door side-by-side refrigerator at special low Admiral Value Day prices. This deluxe model, IND 2259, uses 30% less energy than last year's model. In just 1 year, you could save enough electricity to light the average home for 8 months. And just for stopping by, your participating Admiral dealer will give you a $10 food value coupon book free. When? Right now, during
Admiral Value Day. You mean this is the one I've been looking for? Admiral Value Day.
Walters Appliance Downey, Warden Appliance Carlsbad, and at all Zodi stores. KNX News Radio time is 9:08. We have a temperature reading of 58 degrees here at Columbia Square in Hollywood. San Diego, incidentally, will have night and morning low clouds and fog with hazy afternoon sunshine today and tomorrow. Not much change in temperature. And to the north in Santa Barbara and Ventura County coastal areas, as well as the Santa Monica Bay area and the Orange County metropolitan area, the outlook is for night and morning low clouds, hazy sunshine in the afternoons, both today and tomorrow, and little temperature change.
You need money, but you've never been to a finance company. Well, let me tell you what it's like to do business with Pacific Finance. Pacific Finance makes loans quietly and privately. We ask you a few questions, like how much money do you need? Where do you live? Where do you work? No big thing. Then usually all that's required is a simple credit check. Nothing very time-consuming. In fact, if you call Pacific Finance in the morning and your loan is approved, you can probably drop by the same day and get your money. How much money? Most of the people who come to Pacific Finance qualify for more than they want. And later on, if things get tight, let us know. Maybe you can take longer or make smaller payments. Pacific Finance has been lending money to people for more than 50 years. We have over 900 offices throughout the United States and Canada. So if the time comes when only money can help, try Pacific Finance. We'd like to help.
Well, as of this morning, about 5,000 refugees have arrived at Camp Pendleton in Southern California. spokesmen say they've worked around the clock to develop the base's capacity from 0 to 10,000 in 3.5 days. Last night, the first after-dark arrivals were processed, with another area of the base, Camp San Onofre, being opened with its barracks and mess hall for the comfort of the refugees. Base spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Art Brill tells KNX News Radio the civil coordinator worked all through yesterday on flow charts, and this morning a new centralized processing system was put into effect to streamline screening operations. Brill says that should make it easier on the refugees who, so far, have handled well whatever has been asked of them.
They are tired, you know, they're relieved basically that they're here, bewildered somewhat, cooperative by all means. The press have had no difficulties in interviewing those. Many of them speak English. You know, the head interpreter here told me last night that about roughly 35% of the first groups that came in spoke English. Now we're getting an indication, at least the group of last night, that perhaps not quite as many spoke English.
Camp Pendleton spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Art Brill. At the 76th Annual State PTA Convention underway in Los Angeles, teacher delegates are receiving pointers on how to improve students' understanding of their government and legal system. Executive Director of the Law in a Free Society Project is Charles Quigley of the UCLA Extension Services.
This is one of the great values of the support of the Bar Association, the State Bar and Local Bar and Barristers Associations, that they legitimize, they give strength to the program, and with that sort of support, teachers are a little bit more they feel more secure about dealing with these issues. And also, we have just emphasized the teachers don't indoctrinate students, that they have open discussions, that all reasonable positions are out and are debated. And it's amazing that you get support from across the political spectrum for that sort of approach.
Charles Quigley explaining to teachers attending the State PTA Convention in Los Angeles about a project aimed at making the American Constitution come alive. KNX News Radio time is 9:12. More legal troubles loom today in Compton Municipal Court for former Long Beach City Councilman Wayne Sharp. He currently is on probation for receiving stolen property. And now he is scheduled for trial on a charge of falsifying a traffic accident report stemming from an accident involving his Long Beach City car last November when it hit a telephone pole. Sharp at the time reportedly said the car was sideswiped by a hit-run auto.
J.P. McCarthy for Chrysler Corporation. Tax rebate checks up to $200 are being mailed by the millions to stimulate the American economy. In Detroit, Chrysler Corporation announces for a limited time only a simultaneous effort to make tax rebate dollars go even farther. Chrysler is offering to retail customers an additional rebate for a full $200 on their economical compacts. First, you make your best deal with the dealer to buy or lease a new 1975 Dodge Dart, Plymouth Duster, or Valiant. Then Chrysler will send you a $200 check, and you don't have to wait for your tax rebate to get it. This offer is limited to one to a customer on cars in stock at participating Dodge or Chrysler Plymouth dealers. It's quite a package for the economy. Up to a $200 tax rebate from the government, a full $200 rebate from Chrysler on their economical compacts. Better see your Dodge or Chrysler Plymouth dealer today. He wants to make your tax rebate go farther.
When one of his children paid 85 cents for a 3-ounce candy bar at a Seal Beach movie theater, Democratic State Assemblyman Mike Cullen of Long Beach thought that was just too much. As a result, the State Assembly Criminal Justice Committee has approved and sent on to the Ways and Means Committee a bill to prevent any gouging of theater customers who buy popcorn, candy, and other refreshments sold in the lobby. Cullen, who introduced the bill, said he had checked with wholesalers and learned that the median wholesale price was 36 cents for the same candy bar his child paid 85 cents for. KNX News Radio time is 9:14. We have a temperature reading in Hollywood of 58 degrees.
If you haven't been to your neighborhood Safeway store lately, you'd better get moving, because right now there's a big savings event on hundreds of Safeway's own S-brand products. Names like Mrs. Wright's, Edwards Coffee, Bel Air, Townhouse, and more. Products that carry Safeway's own mark of quality. Products backed by the famous Safeway guarantee at prices you won't believe. So head for Safeway now. See for yourself just how sharp the experts are at making your budget work. The experts at Safeway.
58 degrees at Columbia Square in Hollywood. The time now is 9:14.
Of all imported beers, only one could be number one. And that one is the one and only Heineken.
Heineken beer, Holland's finest, America's #1 imported beer. Light or dark in the green bottle. Or on draft, imported by Van Munching and Company, New York.
Heineken tastes tremendous.
No wonder it's #1.
KNX News Radio time is 9:15, and turning to sports, early favorite Foolish Pleasure will be in the #3 post position for Saturday's 101st running of the Kentucky Derby. A field of 15 3-year-old horses have entered in the first jewel in racing's Triple Crown. The Dodgers swept their 3-game series with Atlanta and ran their winning streak to 7 games with last night's 5-2 victory at Dodger Stadium. The Angels moved into a tie for first place with their 3rd straight win, a 7-6 thriller over Kansas City. The Padres snapped a 5-game losing streak with a 4-2 victory over Houston. In the NBA playoffs, Chicago nipped Golden State by a score of 90-89. In the ABA, Denver evened its Western Division Championship playoff at 3 games apiece, downing Indiana 104-99. And the dual track meet of the year takes place this Saturday between USC and UCLA. An update on the Bruins from KNX News Radio sports reporter Barry Rode.
The Bruin record under Coach Jim Bush is more than just impressive. 33 straight dual wins, 8 so far this year. NCAA titles all over the place, and another one possible this season. But the whole year is based on Saturday. It's another of those crosstown dogfights, and neither team is giving an inch. Jim Bush knows his athletes are strong in the field events and that USC has the stronger runners. And he feels the whole meet could be decided on the last race, the mile relay.
I just feel that if it gets down to the mile relay, it's going to be one heck of a meet because our kids do not like to lose a mile relay, even though they have 3/4 milers better than anything I have after Benny Brown. So it's going to be exciting. I just can't dope it out where we're winning. But we don't plan on losing, I'll guarantee you that.
Jim Bush, like Vern Wolf, his USC counterpart, has doped out the times and distances on the meet, and he says he just cannot pick a winner. It will, as usual, probably depend on which team wants victory the most. This is Barry Rode, KNX News Radio.